Do you see that in many people's eyes? I do.
I see it in a lot of people. I think there's something that God put in all of us, and that's to overcome, to move forward.
Jesus Christ, you can trust him. He'll never fail.
We've seen midgets grow. We've seen arms and legs that stop growing. Mandada basata. I don't make this stuff up.
So are we going to be called away to meet the Lord? But it's not going to be 300 years. We live in right at the coming of Jesus Christ.
You're just a 10-foot-tall crybaby.
I'm crying.
It's not so bad. I mean, no, Christians aren't being killed.
No, not yet.
What the Bible says, Leviticus 20:13. If a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with the woman, they shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them. And that, my friend, is the cure for AIDS.
The notion that atheists are somehow the intelligentsia among us and so forth, I think this is just completely false.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Age of Reason podcast. What's up, Alex?
Oh, not much, man. A little under the weather today, but hopefully bagging on some Christians and conservatives always, that's...
So, you're moving into a new house shortly, right?
Yes, sir, and that's the reason, unfortunately, last week we weren't able to record because, unfortunately when you're buying a house, I guess my loan officer wasn't very straight with me. It took her, we had a date, we thought everything was going to be good, and so we sold the house we were living in, and then they tell us, oh, your new house is not going to close for 2 weeks later. So I'm kind of homeless.
So timing didn't line up.
Yeah, so I'm homeless, living roughing in the streets of Modesto.
You sound like you're living under an overpass over there. It's a good thing they started that Wi-Fi for the homeless program.
That's probably next. Thanks, Obama.
So yeah.
If there's any audio discrepancies, if it's not perfect, I apologize. I don't have all my normal equipment.
No, totally understandable. So all your shit's in storage right now until you're able to move into your new place.
Yeah, I have 3 master suites currently, but they're all storages.
That's funny.
We were talking about, what to do for Memorial Day. We were gonna just open the garage and the storage, pull up some chairs, and just barbecue right there like good old Americans. But by the way, actually, I guess we should make note. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you to all the veterans that have given their lives. I'm extremely grateful. I'm sure you are as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's unfortunate. The wars that we've gotten into is what I feel bad about. But I mean, it's we definitely want to thank the brave men and women of our armed services, and as well as, I mean, there's a big difference between not agreeing with the war and not supporting your troops. And that's definitely something we should always do, is support our troops, whether or not we agree or disagree with the war. But on a brighter note, I'm going to be in your shoes here in a few weeks. So I'm moving out of the state of Arizona.
Congratulations.
I've been working on this, as you know, for like the last 4 or 5 weeks, and I can finally talk about it. And on June 8th, I will be packing up my shit, and I will be hitting the road. And as of June 13th, I will be a Colorado resident. I'm moving just outside of Denver, and I am psyched to get the fuck out of this state.
That's nice. And, I'm much more inclined to visit you where they have legalized marijuana.
Of course you are.
Just for the record. But aside from that, I think it's going to be a good move for you. Shifting the culture, the churches, all that good stuff. It's you'll fit in much better in Denver.
Yeah, I think so too. So I lived in Washington State for about for almost 3 years, and it was very no palm trees, only pine trees. I lived across the Puget Sound from Seattle, and it's very green and kind of foresty landscape, which is kind of where I'm moving now. But from what I hear, it's very liberal over by Denver, and there's a huge music scene. So I'm looking forward to this, because I have not done music for 7 months or so. I mean, it's been a long time, and it's been killing me, because being here and a bunch of shit went down shortly after I got here personally, and I mean, it was a huge mess, and I've done nothing in my spare time but play video games and listen to politics. And obviously that isn't always, it just makes me angry.
Yeah, it's not a good, there's no de-stressing there.
No, there's not. And like, I wake up angry. So the very first thing I do when I wake up in the morning and when I go to bed at night is I read articles. Is when I get an opportunity to do it. And I have a lot of my articles that I read, they go through Facebook. I have certain news media on feed. And I'm scrolling through, and somebody posted their redneck opinion and said that the majority of anti-Trump people, the majority of them are illegal immigrants.
Oh, yeah, duh. I mean...
Now, we have 11 million undocumented illegal immigrants in the United States. And this guy really thinks there's only, maybe 12 million that don't support Trump. It's so strange.
Yeah, I mean, you see him on Facebook and stuff, kind of out of the norm, but, the Latinos for Trump, unfortunately, they do exist, but it's a very, very tiny minority, and that's a legal citizen. So there are some Hispanics that do vote for Trump,
right?
But besides that, the majority of Hispanics, just when he first got into the race, the things he said there, he isolated and screwed them all over right from the start. So people are still angry about that. Nobody's going to forget about that. He says he loves Hispanics. He employs all of them. He
eats taco bowls.
Oh yeah.
What the hell is a taco bowl? Have you ever had a taco bowl? I've never had a taco bowl.
Yeah, it's authentic from New York.
From Trump Tower. They make the best taco bowls.
I don't know if you saw the meme that said this idiot even puts a wall around his Mexican food.
I did not. That's funny. But seriously, what's not funny is I had two conversations this week. One with Hillary supporters and one with two Trump supporters actually. One Trump supporter that I was talking to lives in Texas, and he was kind of open-minded. He was a nice guy. He wasn't for we got into religion, and he was all for Muslim religion, not getting into politics. And he thought Obama had a part of that, but he also said he doesn't want Christianity in there. So I'm like, oh, all right, fine. Treat them all equally. But when I asked him why he didn't support Sanders, and I asked him that when I asked him why he supported Trump, he said, well, it's the revolution. We're tired of being poor. And, there's a real awakening going on in this country and all these things. And I'm like, this guy's anti-establishment. And I'm like, you're describing Bernie. And he said, the reason I don't vote for Bernie is because I don't know who he is. I don't know who this guy is. I know Donald Trump. I've seen him on TV for 30 years. And I'm like, you didn't see any of his failed shit? I forget what it was called, but when he tried to make his own football league in the late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, yeah, the XFL, I think.
No, that was Vince McMahon.
Oh, you're right.
That was wrestling. I forget what it was called.
The American Football League or something like that. Yeah.
Of course it was American. Oh, well, and Budweiser's changing their name to America. And Donald Trump is taking credit for that too. But
it goes without saying the finest tasting beer should change its name for the finest running president. So
exactly. So what I found with all these people is, they can't get past a follow-up question. So the other, at least this guy was humble enough to say, hey, I don't know. This is just what makes sense to me. That's why I'm voting for Bernie Sanders, or that's why I'm voting for Donald Trump and not Bernie or Hillary. The other Trump supporter, I told him, and I had the same conversation with the Hillary Clinton supporter, is why are you voting for Trump? Because he's going to fix this country. Now, here's a follow-up question. How? Well, he's going to put people back to work. How? Well, he's a businessman. That's what he does. No. How is he going to put people back to work? Well, and this is what I got. Well, what the fuck do you know? All you pay attention to is Bernie Sanders. I'm like, no. You ask me any policy question on either of these three, and even a few others, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, I read. And I don't read the opinions, which was the second accusation I got. Well, you only read what you see in the media. No, motherfucker. You can look up each and every one of their plans. You can look up the tax plan that Trump says you get to mark I win if you make less than $25,000 individually, and put that on your taxes. But he's also going to cut taxes for the rich and make more loopholes. So in a sense, we're not collecting taxes from fucking anybody, yet somehow we're going to get out of this debt. You know, they can't get past one, maybe two follow-up questions. Once you get there, it all crumbles. And what I hear is, look, I'm a Trump supporter. This is what I think needs to happen. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. You think this is what needs to be done, yet you've done zero homework. I don't get it. In my opinion, you're not a Trump supporter. You're a Trump voter. You are voting for Trump. But beyond any substance after that, you have none. What do you think?
I think it's hard to be a Trump supporter aside from that, just because he has no substance right now. And, you know, he's been all over the map on all these things. Like, you know, he said the wall now is a suggestion. You know,
right.
It's hard to pin him down, because until the general election comes and he actually comes out with this platform, who knows what's going to be out there, and who knows what he's going to say, you know, in his policies. Right now, it's still a surprise, and I think a lot of people are going to have a hard time trying to nail that down. And hopefully during the debates, you know, whether Hillary or Bernie, I think he's going to be kind of ran through the washer in the debates, just because he's not going to be able to talk about policy like the other two are.
You ever tried to get pumpkin guts out of clothes?
I
don't know if running them through the wash is going to do any good. I mean, the stain that we have had on not just our election, but, you know, the one positive thing that Trump has done is he's allowed everybody to identify who's racist and who's crazy.
No, I mean, I agree, and I've said this before, but I think this election shows more than anything else that what this country truly deserves is a multi-party system. I think if you were to have a race right now for president, with Bernie Sanders coming out of the Progressive Party, Hillary Clinton, the moderate Democrats, I don't know, Mitt Romney maybe as a conservative, and Trump as a batshit Republican, I think that would be just such a better understanding of where the country is. I think right now the Republicans have done such a good job of scaring people with their social issues,
right,
that they basically taken over. And I think on the same side on the Democrats have defended the social issues so hard that they're basically economically the same as Republicans. There's not much difference. They still, you know, it's business as usual. They want to keep supporting the big corporations. They want to keep that pork coming. And it's sad that the Democratic Party right now has no balls.
No. Well, that's kind of chauvinistic for you to say because of the front runner. I see what you're saying. And you know what? You and I are unaware as to whether or not Hillary Clinton has balls. We do not know. Just saying.
Fair enough.
But going back to a few things about Trump, I mean, so we were off last week, and a lot of stuff has happened. So some of this is kind of old, but John Miller. I mean, Trump faking to be his own publicist. You know, and these are the things. Like, this is part of the conversation I got into with the guy from Texas. Is he said he wants Trump mainly because he's not a politician. And I said, okay, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason we don't like politicians is because they're liars, right? They're car salesmen. They sell you on an idea, and then they're benefiting way more than you are in the end. Yes, of course. Okay, well, Trump lies as well. And I even told him, I said, please don't tell me we have to debate as to whether or not Trump has lied in the past. He said, no, I understand. I said, okay, good. So this is one of the reasons why I said he's a bit open-minded. And I said, okay, well, why are Hillary's lies, taboo, but Trump is okay? And he said, honestly, what it comes down to, and that's when he said, I don't know anything about Bernie, but I'm deciding that I want to be lied to by Donald Trump and not Hillary Clinton. I was not able to dig deeper than that. But I mean, could you imagine if any other candidate in history was caught faking to be their own publicist? I mean, not to mention Trump faked being his own doctor. I mean, we know he wrote or dictated that bill of health that he got in the beginning of the election.
You mean he's not the healthiest motherfucker alive?
I don't know, man.
And I'm not sure why you're questioning John Miller. That's Trump's longtime press spokesman.
The funny part about that is, this was a long time ago. I think it was in the 90s, I believe. But the funny part is Trump admitted to doing this
after some bullshitting first.
Some bullshitting first, but back in the 90s.
No, at first there was no audio. So at first there was just the story came out, and then he denied it. But once you heard the audio, there's no denying that freaking accent.
No, sure, but that's the thing. He admitted to this before any of this election kicked off. He already admitted that it was him, and now he's saying that it wasn't again. Right?
Before the election kicked off, not that I'm aware of. I think this just surfaced recently, and when
it resurfaced recently. This was a bit of a story back in the day.
In the 90s, maybe.
Right. Yeah, we're talking days ago, but I mean, the bottom line is between that and between his doctor bill. I mean, those aren't even the dangerous things. That and renaming Budweiser to Budweiser renaming themselves to America and him taking credit. That's not even the worst thing. You know what he did in your state? He showed up last week and said that there is no drought. Now, the reason he's saying there is no drought is because the water is being sent back out into the ocean because of some kind of 3-inch fish. It's one of the many fish that are actually longer than his fingers. Some 3-inch fish, which is actually called the Delta smelt, is what it's called. But he's saying because this is an endangered species, the bleeding heart liberals are causing us. I don't even know how this would solve the problem, but we're sending water in California back out to the ocean. He's a climate change denier. I mean, this is another thing about him that is extremely dangerous.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about that, though, is as much as he denies climate change, he has a golf course in Scotland, and it was one of his beautiful fairways was going to be threatened by rising sea tides. So he built a wall to protect his golf course against global warming. So that's to me the kind of stuff that in your face he's comfortable telling millions of Americans it's a hoax. The Japanese created it. In private,
and Rafael Cruz Sr. killed JFK.
In private, he's going over there protecting himself against global warming. And, it's that kind of hypocrisy that, on top of everything else, I hope this country can see the light. But, I mean, he's popular.
We've mentioned many times the standing on Fifth Avenue and shooting somebody and not losing voters. We are day by day we are realizing how true this is. I mean, he's already starting the Second Amendment argument. If Hillary Clinton gets elected, he went and did a speech to the NRA and said that Hillary Clinton's going to come for your guns. So this is Obama all over again. This is creating a fake. Oh, yeah, they want you to register your weapons, because what would you do if you had a registry of everybody's weapons? After that, you come take them. It's that huge fear aspect, and fear is winning right now. But Trump does do good things. He does. He is forcing Chris Christie to stop eating Oreos.
No, that was funny.
I'm not eating Oreos. I don't eat Oreos anymore. And Chris, you're not eating any Oreos either anymore, right? I forget what he said, but he said, we're both doing it. It's okay. It's okay.
You find the Oreo in your pocket, boy?
Poor Chris Christie. I don't feel sorry for him, but I'm just,
I mean, he's just like he's along for the ride, hoping to get something out of it. But it is funny to just publicly get.
He can't even get Oreos out of it now. I mean, I don't know what else could be important to him. If he can't eat Oreos, they're a fairly small cookie. There's not going to be any cakes, any cream puffs.
Well,
it's not going to be nothing but organic carrot cake for him from here on out.
Well, you know, I think the difference, I guess, and this is one thing that I'm not going to say I agree with Trump, but Trump is right about trade. He is right that we're getting screwed by the countries, and now the details are not correct.
Sure.
Bernie's details are much more present. You know, you could see them, but the reason Bernie knows about it is because he studied the issue and he's actually seen the money go somewhere else. The reason Trump knows we're getting screwed by trade is because he's screwing us.
All of his people are in China.
Of fine ties, fine shirts, they're all made in China or Mexico.
Right. So he's aware of it.
So he knows exactly what's the problem because he's been screwing us that way all this time.
Yeah, and how is he going to hold all these other corporations accountable when he says that we're going to start punishing corporations for sending job overseas? You and I'm sure, can get behind that. But is that not the definition of a hypocrisy? Well, I mean, not to mention the illegal immigrants that he hires on in Florida to take care of of his real estate investments down there, and he says it's a seasonal job. But the statistics prove him otherwise as in regards to how many legals apply for that job compared to illegals. I mean, like I said, it's going to be carrot cake for all of us, and that's actually very fitting because carrots are orange. It's God. Anyway, he's just. We'll see what happens. I'm starting to actually get scared, and I'm starting to get very angry very quickly over this. I mean, as I was saying earlier, in the last 7 months since I've been here, I've been working so much. I don't have music. I don't have anything else other than politics, and that's not good. I think I'm giving myself an ulcer. And when I woke up this morning, the article, the thing that I read was the thing about the 11 million people, and I just. Why would you want to be so stupid? Why would you want to not be informed? Just sit and pass judgment and not have your wall is paper thin is the problem.
Well, you know, we talked about it before, and unfortunately, just the intellectual state of this country is just so poor.
Yeah. And he loves the poorly educated.
Oh yeah, he loves. Yeah, I can't remember the statistics of how many people have read a book in the last year, but it's like 1 out of 90 or something, you know, some crazy shit like that.
Well, wait, I'm one of those people though.
Well, you read though. I
read, but I just don't. I don't read novels. I can't stay interested.
Yeah,
I read books, but I read articles more than anything else.
And you know, typically I do too, but it's still, I think I'm sure I've read a book in the last 12 months, and it might not even be. Well, I have kids, so maybe it's.
You've always done that though. Like you're kind of a hipster. You were like reading before
wait
school.
A minute,
you used to read in high school.
Wait a minute, that's not a hipster. Just because I wanted to read, you fuck.
No, I'm saying like typically high school kids and junior high and stuff like that don't like reading. And I remember I think my mom used to loan you like Stephen King books when you were in your early teens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've got away from it a little bit, but I still do enjoy a good book once in a while. It helps relax you, you know, and stuff. So there's that.
But then you found, other greener pastures to help relax you. Let me see what else
about
we
relaxing. I know you're leaving Arizona. You know, I never realized how much crazy shit actually happened in Arizona until you moved there. I think. I think Jon Stewart called it Florida West or something like that. And, you know, I always kind of had that in the back of my mind. But as we're doing the podcast and I'm doing more research, I'm amazed at how many of these batshit crazy things happen in Arizona. So the one that I saw the other day was a preacher who, this guy's by himself, but very similar to the Westboro Baptist Church, God hates fags, all that kind of stuff. He also has a tendency to take a sign with a megaphone that says, "You deserve to be raped." You know, God's love. He was at a high school protesting last week, and a lady didn't take it too nicely. She kind of hit him in the head with a baseball bat.
This is in Glendale, right?
I think it was in Glendale.
I live in between. I live in a city in between Phoenix and Glendale. It's like 10 minutes. Glendale is kind of a well laid out city. It takes up a lot of ground. I'm not exactly sure where this happened, but yeah, it's right in my neck of the woods. So she hit him upside the head. She inglorious bastarded him.
Yes, she's being charged assault with a deadly weapon. I think she had some marijuana too, so I'm sure the marijuana made her do it. But yeah, so obviously,
that's funny.
We're for free speech. Everybody should have the right to speak. But hate speech, is a form of free speech, and it should be free. But at the same time, if somebody feels their rights are violated to a certain point, I mean, you can see where you can make the argument that somebody like that should get popped in the head with a baseball bat, I guess.
Well, I mean, you and I have talked many times about how we're anti-violence and shit like that. I mean, but I guess I would say that if you're going to project hate speech, and somebody else's hatred comes to you, you're asking for it. And when I was hearing about that article, I was the first thing was I was turned off. But the second I put a female face behind that baseball bat, I was like, man, fuck it, okay, let her hit him. I don't give a shit. I don't know why. I mean, female on male violence, I'm totally good with. I mean, I've seen way too much of male and female violence growing up. Mark one down for the women, I guess. I'm good with it. Smack the shit out of them. But with people like that, I mean, I would like to say that everybody should be reasoned with. And, this is what our podcast is named after, is the Age of Reason. And in one sentence, it means that ignorance is a choice. You do not have to remain ignorant nowadays. Even in the 1980s and 90s, you probably could have had an excuse. But with the internet and your phone, you have no reason to remain ignorant nowadays. And
it's amazing.
No, definitely. And I think the main problem is if it's not people like I said to the guy I was talking about earlier, you're not a Trump supporter, you're a Trump voter. You don't know enough to support him because you kind of just make him look stupid. But it's people. It's mainly a decision about where do you get your facts. Where do you trust your facts? Who can talk to you on TV or through the internet? Because you and I mean, last episode, we had a guy who happened to be a state delegate that we knew. That was great. That was like the closest thing AOR is ever going to get to a man on the street. That was awesome. But we don't have that. We have to trust other outlets. And I think most people have the difference in opinion that really matters is, where do I trust to get my news from? Do I trust Hannity? Do I trust John Oliver? Do I trust Bill O'Reilly? Like, that is, I think, where it comes in. People build a trust with somebody, and whatever they say, that's what goes. And I don't know how you would even go about changing that, because any evidence you show them, they tear apart. Not rightfully, but in their own head, they tear it down and they
they dismiss it. And I think you forgot my favorite. He has a special place in my heart, Glenn Beck. But yeah, and some people honestly don't even, I guess they don't even care. They're very comfortable with their ignorance, and those are the people that we just, if somebody is not willing to reason, the conversation ends. I mean, right. You can yell at each other, you can beat them over the head with facts, but if they're not willing, and like you said, these guys were, but if people are not willing to, give a little bit, you're never going to have a good conversation.
Again, right, and again, you need to talk to people that disagree with you more than you talk to people that do. I mean, that's the only thing I can say. And you'll open up as you continue talking to people. I mean, I can't see myself opening up to Donald Trump. I mean, and people misunderstand me not, like they think, and I know I'm arrogant too. I know I think this as well. I think that when somebody disagrees with me, it's because they don't understand. But on the other hand, when I talk to a Donald Trump supporter, I understand the banning of Muslims coming into this country until we figure everything out. I understand that. I understand that building a wall could provide some symbolism of protection and confidence in our government, if not also blocking out terrorists trying to cross our southern border, as well as the illegal immigrant issue. I understand the thought. But what they don't seem to remember is, in regards to our drugs and our illegal immigrants, they don't go to the fucking wall. They use tunnels and they use boats. When I lived in Santa Barbara the last 4 years, a boat with drugs washed up on shore. They go around the wall. But these guys, one of them didn't even know who El Chapo was. Yet they're concerned about a monster and they don't even know his name. They need to read the Sean Penn Rolling Stone interview about his traveler's flatulence and all this other shit. But there's miles of tunnels. He escaped the last 2 times he was in prison through tunnels. Fuck your wall. It's not going to work.
Why is there no Mexicans on the Olympic team?
Because everyone that can run, jump, or swim is already in the United States. It's funny because part of it is it's sort of true. Sort of. I don't know if it is true. I don't really know what portion of our swim and running and jumping teams are made up by Hispanics or anything like that. I'm not sure. But I see what you're saying. It makes complete sense. But, that's really what I think is happening. I think this is actually all faith. I think this has to do with what media outlets you put faith in. And I don't know. I mean, I've also said before, with Bill Maher, I don't believe everything Bill Maher tells me. I don't support everything Bill Maher tells me. These guys, I don't know. It's just a lack of research and too much faith.
I think Bill O'Reilly's been the top-rated newscaster for the last 15 or so years. So that does show where the majority of people are getting their facts from.
I don't think it's the majority of the people. I think it more has to do with the majority of people that watch news are older. They have the time. They're not as busy as younger people are. They're not busy in the rat race trying to, some of them aren't working. I mean, I'm bringing up a group that has retired people in it, and they may be working part-time. Their kids are probably grown. I mean, I'm sure if we looked up, I can do this, but I'm sure if we looked up the average age of Fox News viewers, we're not going to find people under 40 or 50.
Oh yeah.
Being the majority.
It's definitely high. And, I think, to your point earlier, a lot of younger people are getting their news from the internet, different sources, small private news places that actually go out to the thing and report the news, instead of telling you, about Beyonce's new song or, whatever the shit that comes up. And it's honestly painful to me. I don't watch the news anymore. MSNBC was my last hope, and I kind of gave up on them as well. So most of the news I get is through reading and through the independent news sources. But I
was hoping Maddow was gonna fill Jon Stewart's shoes for me, and it happened for about 2 weeks, and then I was done. But anyway, moving on to do you have something? Oh, okay. Moving on to a few other things. So you brought up that holy man's issue. Well, there was a holy man in the state of Idaho who took his 14-year-old daughter to a penitentiary to marry an incarcerated prisoner. And he did this for religious reasons. And the reason why it was religious is because the guy that was incarcerated, that her father was forcing her to marry, raped her and impregnated her. I wonder if the preacher down here in Glendale would tell this woman this 14-year-old girl that she deserved to be raped. I'm sure he would. But I think we have another guy that whoever that woman was that hit him needs to knock the shit out of that guy.
She got to clean up on aisle 2.
Yeah, rape is not a Ten Commandment, not in the Ten Commandments. And it was okay to rape back then. Women were property. There was nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, exactly. In the commandments, they are property. So technically you can do what you want with them.
Yeah, exactly. So this guy took his 14-year-old daughter to Idaho to marry the man that raped her.
That's just disgusting.
Yeah, completely. But hey, on a brighter note, but also having to do with sex, I am not the Mike Webb, who is a member of Congress, that was caught posting a screenshot that had porn site tabbed in the background, and one of them was tight booty something. We don't know what the rest of it said because it was cut off, but tight booty was the first 2 words.
You know, I can't. I don't know how these people get off on
tight booties.
No, I'm a big fan of. No, but how these people get off on spending their days telling people how wrong sex in general is, how wrong gay sex, all these different, all just sex is just wrong. And then they go home and they watch porn, or they go home and they have a secret gay life. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're gay, be gay. But it's just when you constantly in the public arena chastise people for actions that you're making in private, I mean, come on.
More hypocrisy. Yeah, it's yeah. And now this guy was like an avid anti anal sex, anti-gay, that sort of thing, right? Which makes tight booties very troubling for this guy.
Oh yeah. And I am, by the way, glad it wasn't you. I was a little worried.
Well, I actually I'm not sure what nationality he is, but I'm much whiter than he is. We do not look alike. No relation. And lastly, for news, before we get into the rest of this, the House GOP had a meeting just before they took a vote on an energy and water appropriations bill. And during the meeting before the vote, they had a pastor there who gave a speech on why the Bible is wrong. Well, fuck, wouldn't that be great? Oh, I just misspoke what I would hope would be true. Gave a speech on why the Bible is correct in making sure that LGBTs are thought of as abominations, that sort of thing. Very anti-gay stuff taken right from the Bible. And they listened to this speech, and in the water appropriations bill, there was a section in there about LGBT rights. So this is more of some stuff we got into about a month ago, where bills and amendments are slipped into bills that have nothing to do with this. So, for instance, LGBT rights are slipped into a water and energy appropriations bill. And right after hearing this speech from the pastor about anti-LGBT rights, it was voted down 112 to 305. So this is more religion at work inside of our politics.
Yeah, I mean, the First Amendment says it clearly. We talked about this before.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I guess we just keep bringing this stuff up as it happens because it is news. But, I mean, really, what else can we possibly say about it that we haven't said already?
Yeah, I mean, all we can do is keep calling out the bullshit. But unfortunately, like you said, it keeps happening. It's not going anywhere. So...
yeah, it's unfortunate, but all right. So we have a guest again. This is 2 episodes in a row. So we have our friend Nick standing by over here, and Nick is currently majoring in physics, but he's all around kind of not a science expert, but I mean as much as you and I consider to be ourselves experts on politics and religion for being the average uneducated but having a piece of paper that's saying that we know what we know, he's on that level with science. So we thought it would be a good idea to bring him on here in a reoccurring role, maybe once a month or so. And I've mentioned before how when I look at astronomy, and your favorite scientific topic is biology, right? Because you like evolution, that sort of thing, and I love astronomy, space, all that crap. And one of the things that you and I think about when we look into just the crazy mysteries is, why do we need God when there's this much wonder and this many crazy things that you and I and the general public aren't even aware are questions that scientists are even working on right now. So moving forward, about once a month, we're going to bring Nick on here, and Nick's standing by right now to jump in to bring one of these things out. And today's topic is going to be pretty fucking interesting. Nick, how's it going?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Been a while. Yeah.
we've been
No, I
planning this
know.
for a while.
I wish I could have been on sooner, but finals.
I promise I'll have Mike stop referring to you as Nick the Science Geek.
We should have came up with a name.
It's his time to invent a name for me. I used to do it so often to him. So.
Actually, yes, my screen name has on PlayStation has the word Smash in it, and that is thanks to you.
You started a trend, though. I've been to hockey games lately where they scream "Smash," and I think that was you. I think you started that.
That seed was planted like 12 years ago.
I know.
Years ago, somewhere.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah. So welcome to the show, man. So you're gonna get into a bunch of stuff moving forward, but today you're gonna start off with a subject that is gonna trip us out. It's probably some stuff our listeners are completely unaware of, and this is where you can put the attention at when you want to say that God does everything. So what do you got for us, Nick?
Well, like I told you before, I tossed around a few ideas to different people, and said what would be interesting, what would be something fascinating for people to hear that maybe they've never heard before. And even though I found, not a lot, but I found a good number of examples of this on various websites and articles and whatnot, I still find that most people I speak to about it have never even considered this, never heard of it, and the fact that I wanted to bring to you guys today is that you have never touched anything in your entire life. You're not touching the chair you're sitting in right now. You're not touching that bed that you're laying on. Well, I think that's a bed. Futon. I don't know. So basically, the reason for this is because of our atomic structures, because we are all made of atoms. And to begin the minor science lesson here, we are made of atoms, which are protons, neutrons, electrons, and the outer portion of an atom is going to contain the electrons. And when you get two negatively charged fields or particles together, they will repel each other. Now, since we are made of we're made of atoms, and the outer shells of those contain the electrons, anytime you try to get those two things together, they will repel if they don't bond. So, for example, I take my finger and I touch the table. Now, the atoms in my finger, the outer shell has electrons, and the table, its atoms have electrons. So just like when you take a magnet and you try to stick the two north poles together or the two south poles together, they repel each other. So my finger and the table are both repelling each other at the same time, leaving a very small, tiny little space. So I am physically not touching the table.
Okay, so I have an unscientific question here.
Okay.
So technically, I've never jerked off. I can officially say that.
Absolutely, you are still pure, my son.
Well, that was my thing. As you were about to ask that question, I had a realization. I'm still a virgin.
Absolutely, and so is your wife, actually. Well, no. I mean, you
the hymen still gets broken, right?
You've been in there.
I've been in there,
but
I've been in there.
You didn't touch any cave walls, basically. You know.
So I have a question, and I think sex is a good topic for this. So, obviously, when we touch things, then certain things feel differently.
Yeah.
For instance, sex is one thing that feels amazing, and the male penis, as opposed to the female penis, has the highest collection of nerves, like in the head. That's the most sensitive area and all that. So, like, what is it that makes certain parts of your body more? I have two questions then. What makes certain parts of your body more sensitive than others? And what is it in our brain that tells us what something feels like? Or does the way something feels to me feel completely different to you? And so on and so forth.
Well, I mean, technically, you've got a physics question, a biology question, and a chemistry question going there all at the same time.
It's a good thing you're a trifecta of science, because I know you're going to answer all three. At least I hope so.
I will attempt to. Okay. Now, I'm a physics major. I am not a I'm not a physician. I'm not a physicist, and I'm not a biologist. No, but as far as the sensation goes, that just has to do with your nerves. You have a lot of nerves collected in a certain area, and those impulses that stimulate those nerves go to your brain, and certain nerves are set up in certain ways inside your body to stimulate certain areas of your brain. So all of that has to do with the way that you're wired. As far as sensation goes, any peaks or valleys, bumps or grooves that are on anything, all of those are made of the same atoms that the substance is made of, and they are going to be collected in a higher like a higher region. Like, so imagine like the Grand Canyon. I mean, this is a very large example, but you're on that cliff, that's all the same atoms, and then down the cliff, that's all the same atoms, and the bottom of the cliff is all the same atoms. But if you were to run your massive godlike finger over the Grand Canyon, you obviously feel that there's a little dip there.
Right.
Well, that little dip just comes because there is a lower section in that particular thing that you are feeling, and your body registers that as a texture because all of a sudden it was higher, then it got lower, then it got higher again. That part's kind of difficult to explain.
I get it. I mean, obviously things are kind of in stacks, and depending on how they're stacked up, you can't put like I have a desk in front of me. I can't put my hand through the desk. I mean, I could, but just pressing on it, I can't. And if there was a hole in the desk, I'd be jacking off during this show. But if there is a hole in the desk, the atoms of my hand would sink lower than that, right? In that one particular spot where the hole is. That's pretty much what you're saying, right?
Well, if you have a hole, you can just put your arm straight through it. But I mean, if you had a little divot in the desk,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, your finger would occupy some of the space of that divot, and you would feel that part of your finger is lower than the rest of the finger.
Like a golf ball.
Again,
the dimples on a golf ball.
You're feeling the dimples of a golf ball. And it's actually kind of interesting because 99% of an atom, a very enormous portion of an atom, is just empty space.
Yes.
So technically, Cosmos. We're made of empty space as well.
Or star stuff, but practically nothing.
Yeah, that's our atoms. So but it's interesting because that empty space, when you really think about it, if we're 99% empty space on the atomic level, what keeps us together? And why can't we just pass through each other, walk through walls and whatnot? And
isn't there some sort of adhesion molecule of some kind or something?
No, well, an adhesion molecule. A molecule is basically two different elements coming together and forming something. So organic chemistry is a very complex subject, and it takes a lot of different elements to form organic molecules that we are made of. But when you break us all down, we're still made of carbon and oxygen and whatnot. So all of those bonding together, they all bond together in a certain way. I mean, when you're taking, I just finished up my general chemistry course, and when you're looking at that, the periodic table and looking at atoms, certain atoms don't want anything to do with each other whatsoever, and other ones want to be with everybody. So you have
whores.
Basically, you have slut atoms and prude atoms.
Crude atoms, that's great.
Right. And then you have like the noble gases that don't want to bond with anybody, and they're called noble because they kind of stick their nose up in the air at everybody and feel that they're better than everyone. But there's a lot of different reasons for that kind of stuff.
So if I ask, when you say, you feel texture, if I ask the difference, does that have still, going back to the sex analogy of it, wetness? Wet and dry, slippery, and I would imagine things that are slippery and things that are kind of rugged or have friction to them would apply to the texture. But like, is it the same? Are you going to give me the same answer if I say, or if I ask you how we know something is wet or dry?
Well, again, that is just going to have to do with how tightly the atoms are packed, how densely they're packed together. Yeah. Like if you have a solid piece of metal, the metal's going to be more smooth because there's less opportunities for different variations in let's say topography. There's less chance of atoms being stacked a little higher, a little lower. And of course, depending on how you cut it, I mean, you get a bar of gold, that's going to be smooth if you polish it, of course. But when you're polishing it, all you're doing is eliminating those little differences and getting it all down to a certain fine level. And I imagine, because again, not an expert, but I imagine the same thing is going to be true with liquids. It has to do with the way the molecules are packed together, and that's why you're going to feel a certain type of smoothness. But the other thing that's interesting about a liquid is you're going to be able to put your hand into it. You're going to be able to break apart some of that bond that's already there, just like you're able to move through gases because the molecules scatter around more.
So, yeah, we've never actually touched anything. That's...
Yeah, one of the reasons that's my favorite subject is because I'm also really into the philosophical aspect of science, because if you think about never touching anything, you've never touched anybody that you've ever loved. When you were sad when you were a child and you went and you hugged your mom, you weren't touching her. And I know that may seem like a lonely prospect, or that may make it sound kind of sad. I don't think of it that way. I just think of it as knowing more about my surroundings, knowing more about the world that I occupy, that I live in. But I find it, that the implications of it just truly fascinating, that I've never actually touched anything. And it goes more to the point when you get into predestination or into free will. You talk about all the illusions that come into our body. Are we really seeing what we're seeing? Are we really hearing what we're hearing? Do we really feel what we feel? And our brain plays a lot of tricks on us just to make our lives seem, I guess, basically normal or livable.
Right. You got any questions, Alex?
I'm still kind of in awe over here. No, I mean, I was actually, I can't remember. I think today when I was walking through San Francisco, I don't remember what I saw that kind of made me think about it, but I was thinking about I guess from a philosophical standpoint, we can't ever know anything, right? I've heard that argument. So I was kind of like going back and forth in my mind about that. I mean, obviously I pride myself on knowing things, but I know I was kind of kicking back and forth the argument of, technically, I mean, philosophically, I guess you could say, knowledge, I mean, is kind of a made-up thing, or, I don't know if you've ever heard, it taken to that level.
Well, I mean, every single thing that we know, everything in human existence is just what we've recorded down. And what we have learned, we record things in our history books. The science I'm learning right now, the math I'm learning right now, that was all figured out by somebody before. And we have to rely on that. We have to rely on the history that our ancestors left for us. And we can have an archaeological dig. We can find clues. We can make guesses, but we really don't know what it was like. So our past is, open to interpretation officially on a worldwide level, and our actual memories, those actually there's been a lot of evidence that those change all the time. The memories that you have of your own past. You'll start to remember a little bit more of it than you did before, and some other things will fade away, and pretty soon you're remembering something that, while it did happen, some of the details of it never happened at all.
That's definitely a subject that I would like to get into at a different episode, is really how memories, how they work. Alex, how much time we got left?
You know what? My timer's not working right now. I'm sorry.
What the hell?
I know, I'm the time guy.
That's your job. Okay, I'm going to say we have about 10 minutes left. So
yeah, that's about right.
Nick, you were on for the previous part of the show. I know you're also very politically involved and religiously involved. Do you have any religion or politics you want to address?
I could go on for a very long time about any of that stuff. I did watch Bill Maher, like you had mentioned, and I found that one of the guests on there, Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, he's an expert, apparently, I didn't know this, he's an expert in persuasion and hypnosis. And he was saying that Donald Trump is actually using the expert persuasion techniques on the American people, and that's why he is so popular. And some of the things he said, I really gotta agree with the guy,
right?
Because that it perfectly explains why Trump never ever has to back up anything that he says
or apologize.
Right, the lies that he just throws out there, or the terrible things he says, nobody ever holds him accountable for it because he just moves on. He's not going to apologize for it. He tests names. The example given was
right.
Is it Crooked Hillary or Heartless Hillary?
I think it was Heartless Hillary.
Yeah, and he had the crowd debating whether she was Crooked Hillary or Heartless Hillary, and nobody's sitting back and going, well, is she any of these things at all? No, we've been given two options, and she's either one or the other.
Right.
So that makes me worry a lot. It makes me worry about how even Bernie, and I love Bernie. I voted for him in the primary here. It makes me worry that even if Bernie's on stage with him, even though the polling says that Bernie can beat him, I don't know, because my faith in the American public
yes.
has been hurt quite a bit.
Yeah.
No, I know. I mean, I'm a science major, and like the last polling by the Program for International Student Assessment, out of 64 developed countries, America still ranks 35th in math and 27th in science. And I mean, we're behind countries like Vietnam and Estonia, places where if you ask the general American person what these places look like, they would think of a bombed out crater with women hugging groceries and children and running across war-torn fields. I mean, just ridiculous. It's ridiculous that we're behind so far. I mean, we're the people that put people on the moon. We split the atom. I mean, good God.
Bad God.
Yeah, bad God.
This is his fault.
That's right.
I completely agree, and I always kind of felt a little like, all right, come on. Every time I would hear, Bill Maher talk about how stupid America is, and I know there are stupid Americans. I know there are Americans that choose not to get involved, and you and I, Nick, were talking about. You had said to me over the phone a week or so ago that you heard college kids debating about who they're going to vote for, and you heard these kids sticking up for Bernie and saying they're feeling the burn, and then come to find out they haven't registered to vote.
No, absolutely. I'm sitting there at a table with 8 people at the college, and we're having lunch, we're doing homework, whatnot, and I read an article about Trump, and I'm going, you gotta vote for Bernie. We gotta get Bernie in there. And then I look around and I'm thinking, I know some of these people, and they've got the Feel the Burn button on their backpack, and they've taken the flyers that people are handing out on campus, Feel the Burn. And I ask everybody around the table, who are you voting for? And out of the 8, 7 of them said Bernie. And I asked them, well, are you guys registered to vote? Are you ready to go? The primary's coming up in California, and then we're going to have the general election in November. And then, no, we're not registered. Why aren't you registered? Oh, we don't know how. Oh, you go online. Here, look, I show them the website on my laptop. And, oh, yeah, we'll do it later. It takes like 5 seconds. What do you want to do later? And that's what we're fighting against. Especially Bernie may have the millennial vote per se, but he doesn't have as much of it as he should. And
so
that's
yeah. If it turned out as if a majority of the millennials turned out, the election wouldn't even be close. Really, there's so many more of us millennials, but yeah,
the primary season would be over by now on both sides.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's a major shame, and I my belief on this is that is why people get annoyed with me. People get annoyed that I don't let things go. I don't let it go when I'm having a conversation with somebody about politics and another person walks up and says, "Oh, I don't do politics." No. You do not have that right anymore. And I know part of that makes me a hypocrite because when I was growing up, when I was 18, 19, I was into politics, but I wasn't into elections. I was watching The Daily Show, and that was about the extent of it. And, here I am talking to 19-year-old kids and saying, you better do something. But I guess the only thing that I would have to combat that argument is the stakes were not this high. They just weren't. The stakes, I don't think, have ever been higher. And I don't want to get into the Bernie or bust argument. We do not have time for it. Nick, I know you and Alex are on opposing sides of the fence, and I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. But the stakes have never been higher against Donald Trump. And Alex, I think you'll let me know if you agree with this. But social policy is at risk if Trump gets elected president. The Supreme Court justices that he puts forward, Roe versus Wade, LBGT rights, gun laws, all that stuff. The small and large amounts of progress we made, depending on what topic we talk about, are at risk, and it's for more than just 4 to 8 years.
I agree with the Supreme Court part on the social issues. Honestly, I'm not willing to concede that because I don't know where Trump is socially. He was for abortions before. Now that he's running, he wants to jail people that have abortions. It's as the general election starts to come through, I think you'll see Trump's true kind of colors, and they might not be what anybody expects. I think on the other side, I understand the consequences of a Trump presidency, but I don't think I'm going to be bullied in by the Democrats that if you don't vote for Hillary, that this is going to be your fault because you have Trump. That's not the case. This whole process should have been not. I mean, I'm not saying Bernie got screwed or anything like that, but it's just the whole superdelegate. The whole process is just messy, and all I can do is just stand by my principles, unfortunately.
No, I understood, and I wish we had time to do this, but we took 2 weeks off. We had news to cover and everything else, but socially for me, I mean, it's Hillary. In my head, if she is elected president, she's a paperweight for our social progress that we have made. And I don't know if you've seen the 11 Supreme Court justices that Trump has put forward, but they're all very right-wing, very religious, anti-women's rights, that sort of thing. You can't pin him down. He says that right now because he wants to get votes, but at the end of the day, and he's a snake, and you never know which way he's gonna slither. And it's hard, but hopefully enough people in the American public are able to, realize at least look at him thoroughly and analyze him thoroughly on his business deals, on the things he said. If I ran against him, all I would do would just be play clips over and over of things he said. That's it. That doesn't work though.
I don't know.
It doesn't seem to be working for Hillary right now because she's running those ads all over the country, particularly in the states that are left, because she's already fighting Trump. She's not worried about Bernie, and I understand there's a cockiness there that I think that she's making a mistake in underestimating Bernie, but the problem with I agree with you. We don't know what Trump is. He may be more socially liberal than we all think, or that he's espousing. But the danger there is, what if he is not? With like Mike said, with Hillary Clinton, you have a paperweight. You're going to keep the Supreme Court on the at least kind of left of center a bit. It wouldn't go as far as maybe Bernie would want to make it, but if Trump gets in there, his desire to do deals, his desire to be a big man, his desire to fulfill his own ego, if the Republicans at all can pony up to him and come to him with an ultimate deal, he's going to run with it. He's going to run with it. If they caress his ego, if they make him feel like the big man he wants to be, he'll do whatever they want. He'll play ball. And if the Tea Partiers get to him, again, he'll play ball. I'm fully confident in that, and that's why I'm on the other side of it from you, man. I love the spirit of Bernie or Bust. I was a socialist before it was cool, but I just don't think this is the year.
Well, I'll just throw this in there. We just went all around, all three of us, and talked about whether or not Trump is as hardcore in certain directions as he says he is. And Alex, you have a point. I mean, now when Trump talks about the wall and deporting Muslims and all that, it's not what we need to do. It's just a suggestion now. So he is trying to play ball with the Republicans. These ideas that he had that made him the tough guy image that all these redneck flannel wearing jackasses think that he is, he's kind of starting to go a little soft on. I hope they see that. I don't think they will, though. But at the end of the day, it's a tough decision for everybody. But with Trump, we just talked about what we think Trump is. We did not discuss who the Supreme Court justices are going to be, because whether or not Trump flip-flops on policy, I highly doubt the people that he puts forward for the Supreme Court, whether they flip-flop or not on social issues, is less likely. They are not held at the approval of the public. They don't have to worry about re-election. And the scary part about that is if we double down and we lose, as I said, it's going to be for a lot more than 4 to 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you when you say that the biggest damage he could, well, I mean, obviously there's World War III, but the biggest damage that he could potentially do is probably on the Supreme Court, and who he selects there. But we're a ways off, and we got some time, to kind of see what happens. I think we're going to see him keep evolving. I think he's going to keep slithering into kind of the costume that he wants, and then prepare himself for the general election. Because I mean, in the primaries, that's the basic equation. You play to the base in the primaries. Once you win that, you try to become more broad in general. But it's going to be interesting for him because he's already isolated so many voters. Right,
and it's about the voters, but it's now for the first time for him in this election about the GOP, because now he is no longer self-funded. And one quick thing about Bernie Sanders before we head out of here. I saw a meme. Did you guys see this where it talks about how socialists and people that are voting for Bernie and feeling the burn are lazy, but it says, we paid for our candidate. Who paid for yours? Great point.
And one little thing I forgot to mention on there real quick as we're closing. Barbara Boxer said people are attracted to Bernie because he reminds them of their grandpa.
Well,
doesn't remind me of my grandpas.
Yeah, me neither. Both of my grandparents. I never met one of them, and the other one is he's a liberal, but you wouldn't know it by looking at him. He wears overalls and he picks fruit and stuff like that. I wish I had a kind older Jewish man that
She said he makes people feel good. They feel at home with Bernie, so that's why he's attracting so many. It's just goes to show some of these times they're insulting. It's like some of these things.
Yeah. You know what, Webb? For Christmas, I think I'm going to get you a kind old Jewish man. That
you're going to give me a Jesus?
No. Oh. I'll get you a kind old Jewish man, maybe from the Bronx or something, just like Bernie. He can be there. He can call you. You can go, what is this? And who are you? And,
you never call anymore. I never hear from you. Where have you been? I don't know. You could be dead.
Locks on a bagel. It's fantastic.
It's gonna be great, Bubby. All right, Nick. Thanks for joining us, man. So this will be a reoccurring thing. We'll try to get you on here once a month or whenever you feel like you have a big science topic, and we will move on from there. Maybe I'll have a nickname that'll stick with you by the next time you come on here. So
yeah, it's no problem, man. I'll come on anytime you want me. Science topic or no, just let me know.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate it. Thank you. So follow us at AOR_podcast on Twitter, the Age of Reason podcast page on Facebook, and for everything else, AORpodcast.com. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.